So, hello again. Hello again. Welcome, Microbehunter here, and welcome again to another Saturday Microscopy live stream. Well, I've been doing this now for a few months, and it's become already tradition that I first ask if all of you are able to hear me properly and if the sound is fine. And it's also already become a tradition that you maybe say from where you are, because yeah, we've got people from all over the world, and I can already see over here good morning and kind regards from Alex. Well, I have to tell you that I have to say good evening, because where I am from, it's quite yeah, it's a little bit already quite in the evening. Yeah, everything is fine, I can see here, and yeah, so I think we're just gonna get started again. What am I going to talk about today? Well, today I decided to dedicate this live stream yeah, to low-cost introductory microscopes. Look, I got a few here. As a matter of fact, I've got 4 of them here. Yeah, that would be an example here. It's the Omano Junior Scope. Yeah, it's a sub €100, sub $100 microscope, and I would like to yeah, basically now explore a little bit today how good those entry-level microscopes really are, and how does the image quality compare to better microscopes. Yeah, I see that there are already a whole range of comments here. Yeah, from Missouri, USA, from Bulgaria, from the Netherlands, Arkansas, USA, from Germany. Yes, hello and welcome. I really like it when people from all over the world are united by one common hobby over here. Yeah, I would like to simply start off right away that the image that you see over here, that's actually one of my favorite images. That's a flea of a dog flea, little insect which is able to jump very far. And I connected it to an introductory microscope like the one I have here. This is the Swift yeah, SW150 microscope here. Here you're able to see it. I connected a USB camera to the microscope, and you can see that when I turn the camera, then the image also turns. Yeah, so it's fed directly into the computer, and yeah, I can of course also adjust the brightness. I can do the focus, like you can see over here, and of course I can also adjust the yeah, the magnification, and then I have to readjust focus and brightness again. Yeah, and what I would like to do is I'd like to show you a couple of slides using those low-cost microscopes, and then I'd like to also put them into my big microscope over there, so that you can see how good they actually are. Yeah, from Germany, okay, from Brünn, Czech Republic, from London, Poland, Northern Michigan. Yeah, the sound is really low. I hear. I can actually turn it up a little bit more. I don't know if this is now a little bit better. Okay. I hope that it's better now. Otherwise, I have to put the microphone a little bit more closer to my mouth. Okay. Yeah. Or just a second. I'm going to turn up the volume a little bit. Maybe just a second. I've got a mixer down here. So hello, 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 hello. Maybe it's a little bit louder now. Hello. Well, we'll see. Okay. So testing, 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 testing. Yeah, I guess I'm just gonna leave it at that now. Yeah, I hope it's better now. Okay. Yeah, sometimes it becomes a little bit too loud, and then it is also a little bit distorted. Okay, so again, yeah, is that the Summit SK? Yes, it is. Yes, yes, I think that's the Summit. It's a 5 megapixel camera. That was the question here. Yes, I think that's the one. And hello from St. Louis, Missouri. Okay, from Texas, Romania, and yeah. Sound seems to be better. I hope it's better. So first of all, a little brief introduction into those low-cost microscopes and why I decided to talk about them, because there is indeed a reason. And what I have got here is I'd like to simply talk a little bit, a few of them. I already raised this one over here, this model over here, the Swift SW150, not made anymore, but there is a follow-up model. I think it's called the version 200, I think 200D or something like that. And all of those low-cost microscopes have a few things in common, and if simply by looking at them like this, you can see that yeah, the size is of course quite similar. So this is called the Old TED microscope. This is how it's branded, Old TED. This one is the Omano Junior scope that I already talked about. And over here I have another one that's also a Swift or National Optical's SS110. Yeah, they have a few things in common. And one of the good things or nice things about those microscopes is compared to, let's say, if I turn back the time 10 years, 15, 20 years ago, is that those microscopes, even though they are low-cost introductory microscopes, are already able to produce surprisingly good results. You always have to take them from what they are, the microscopes. Of course, they cannot compete with higher end models, but considering the fact that they're so cheap, I think many of them actually do offer a very good opportunity to start hobby microscopy and also to offer yeah, an easy way into microscopy for children. There are actually also other similarities in the sense that they all have monocular tubes, so that you can essentially look through one eyepiece over here. But if you look very carefully, then you're going to see a few remarkable similarities as well. Just look here at the lamp over here, okay? It's not just the color, but also the shape. Look at the one over here. It's exactly the same. Yeah? And the other one that I have over here, a different color, yeah? But it's still the same. Yeah? And the one where there is the flea over here, yeah? Also same. So this is an interesting observation that many of the parts in those introductory microscopes are quite similar, are the same even, and also the sometimes the focusing knobs are the same. And I think the reason is the following, that those microscopes are all manufactured, of course, and not surprisingly, in China. Maybe there are only a handful of companies that actually make them, and then they're rebranded and sold by different brands. Many of the parts are indeed the same. So, for example, also the stage here is basically the same. Yeah, has the same size, for example. However, there are a few differences as well. For example, the one that I have over here, even though the stage looks exactly the same, it is made of aluminum. So there are sometimes a few differences as well concerning quality. But overall, I would say that the image quality itself is quite similar. I do have a fundamental criticism to all of those microscopes, okay, and then I'm going to start putting some slides under the microscope. And the criticism is that all of those microscopes have a little ring here, a little filter ring, and when you turn that ring, then what happens? Well, pretty much nothing. Because this filtering that you have down here in general, or in most cases, is very ineffective. And I would like to demonstrate this to you, because this microscope here also has one of those filters. Are you able to see this? I have to carefully tilt this ring here, okay? Look, when I turn it, okay? Yeah, and the next one, there is no difference in image quality, okay? The filter rings, they in many cases they do not include a filter, but actually have different size aperture holes. Very difficult to see now. So this is supposed to imitate or emulate the opening and closing of a diaphragm, of a condenser diaphragm, but it's not going to work because the diameter of those aperture holes is simply too large, and for this reason it is completely ineffective. And I've seen this pretty much in all microscopes. A few, I think there was one of them that actually had colored glass in here to change a little bit the color of the image, but the effect was very weak. Yeah? So this is actually the main criticism here, that the companies decided to put a filter an aperture ring here without any effect. And stepping it down further, I mean, what I tried is I tried to use an old credit card to and glued it over one of those holes and made a very tiny hole to decrease the aperture yet more. But this took away so much light that it was actually not quite useful. Yeah. So I'm going to read again a few of the comments here. Okay. Yep, sound is better. Sound is better. I was going to order a scope, but was advised to save up to 4 the Nikon Eclipse. Okay, I'm going to comment on this. I just ordered a new microscope. No condenser. Yes, that is indeed, I would say a big drawback here. Is the fact that there aren't binocular, big disadvantage. So what I will do now is I will quickly add a few comments here. You know what? Maybe I'm just going to, before that, otherwise we're all going to get bored. I would like to change the slide now and show you something different, and then I'm going to switch over, and not switch over, but then I'm going to answer a few questions here. So what do we have here? That is a tilia. That's a cross section of a tree. So I have to refocus. I like those beautiful patterns here. Okay, so I'd like to, these are, by the way, these are cells that you see here. Yeah. So very quickly, I'm going to go through a few of the questions now. I was going to order an AM scope, but I was advised to save up for the Nikon Eclipse. Okay, so this is a very big, a fundamental question, really. Should you invest or should you buy a low-cost microscope first? Maybe not quite as low as those over here, because really they're so cheap that you have not really lost a lot of money if you're, but the question is now, let's say that you want to save up 300, 400, 500 US dollars or euros. Should you actually save up a little bit more and then buy a brand microscope, or should you go with a mid-range general China microscope, manufactured in China? This does not actually mean that the quality is any much better or worse, but they are generally produced in large quantities. Or do you want to go with a brand model? And this is, I would say, more of a philosophical question. Generally, what I would say the big difference is that the low-cost microscopes, let's say $300, $400, $500 or euros, when you buy those and something goes wrong with them, basically you damage something, for example, then basically it is not worth repairing them. But if you save up more for a brand model, like for example the Nikon, Olympus, Zeiss or Leica, one of those big brand name companies, those microscopes are sometimes significantly more expensive. However, there is also a larger resale value, and also the second-hand market is larger. And for this reason, it is, I would say, a little bit of a philosophical question of what you would like to do. Sometimes it is worth saving up a little bit more if the other microscope, the brand microscope, has certain features that the lower cost microscopes don't have. And generally also the brand models, they have also better service available. Okay, so I would say that to a certain extent this is a philosophical question that does reappear quite often. Okay, so I've just ordered a new microscope with a digital viewer. Yeah, that's possible. Yeah, no condenser. Yikes! Yes, that is indeed the thing. Is the fact that there aren't binocular big disadvantage? So first of all, those microscopes are monocular, so that there is essentially only one eyepiece to look through. Is this a big disadvantage? For children, it is probably not a big disadvantage, because especially children, when you give them a binocular microscope, I have often seen that they still prefer to look through the microscope only with one eye, and they still will close one eye when they look through it. However, I think this has to do something a little bit with the maybe the brain being able to combine two pictures, I don't know, but many children, younger children, they still prefer to look through a binocular microscope with one eye. Binocular microscopes do have the advantage that it is much more convenient and easier to look through the microscope for a longer time period. So I would say that this is the biggest thing, and looking with only one eye is sometimes a little bit, having to close one eye, sometimes a little bit exhausting. So I would say this is more of a question of how long are you going to spend looking through the microscope. Okay, yeah, here, this is now a slightly higher magnification now. I'm using now the 10 times objective. Okay. So, can you recommend the Summit digital camera you're using right now? Okay, so this is basically the camera that I'm having right now here. It is a 5 megapixel camera. and it is connected over USB 2.0, and can I recommend it? And as always, it depends what you want to do. I mean, there's absolutely no complaints about the hardware. There's no complaints about the overall quality. It's very clear. However, those microscope cameras that you connect directly here over USB are really nice because they're very convenient. Okay, so you just plug them in. As you can see, you do not even need a photo tube. You can simply put it in instead of an eyepiece, and then you can actually do microscopy directly on a monitor. The disadvantages are not really so much with this specific camera model, but more with the type of camera. So basically, you always need to have a computer connected. Yeah, so this is sometimes not a problem. Sometimes this can be a little bit of an annoyance if you always have to switch on a computer. I mean, I personally prefer to do microscopy without a computer next to me, and I like to record it directly into a camera. Again, a question of taste. And I would say, but one of the bigger disadvantages of those microscope cameras is that the USB connection sometimes is too slow to get high quality full HD videos. Yeah? You actually do need a USB 3.0 camera to do that, and then your computer must also be fast enough, and the USB connector must be connection must be fast enough, and you need to have a good USB cable. So I would say, can I recommend it? Yes, of course, for what it is, I can definitely recommend it. And yeah, I would not buy a camera with more megapixels because the microscopes are not able to produce the resolution in this case. But I would say it's more of a question of what you want to do with the camera. Okay. So these are inexpensive, simple, basic microscopes for children or for the adults who like to collect microfossils like myself. Yes, those microscopes, and that's, I think, an important point. Sometimes they are marketed for children. Some of them are sold in colorful boxes together with some accessories. However, this one over here, the one that I'm using here right now, is also a little bit more expensive, and also has slightly better optics. So the objectives that you see down here are a little bit bigger. And you see also that it has a slightly better image quality as well. And those microscopes are not necessarily marketed only towards children. As a matter of fact, it came in a totally boring box and with no accessories, basically no little test tubes and toy-like things, yeah, which you probably don't need anyway. So it was also very clear from the company that these microscopes are not specifically only targeted towards children, but also maybe schools, homeschool use, homeschooling, basic educational use, and so on. Yeah? And I think that indeed those microscopes are already good enough to allow an easy entry into the hobby. And as you can see, you get decent pictures already, and then you can also share those images online over web forums and Reddit and so on, and already you can already become part of the microscopy community this way. And as a matter of fact, I sometimes even recommend that maybe if you're completely new to microscopy, maybe it is indeed better to spend a little, just a low amount of money on one of those introductory microscopes, and after a couple of months, when you outgrow it, you can then basically you know more, and then you can make yourself a more well considered decision what the next microscope should be. So you're kind of growing with a microscope. Yeah? But those microscopes, essentially, not a lot can go wrong, because they're quite low cost. Okay, so I'm going down the questions here. I don't need to spend so much money on a microscope that I don't need to see cells and microbes with. Yeah, that is essentially correct. However, in some cases, it really depends what you want to do. In some cases, you might, especially for research purposes, you might need the resolution of the better microscopes to see the things better that you actually want to observe. Without a condenser, you are also limited because some people want to do dark field microscopy, Reinberg illumination, oblique illumination. There are many things where you can modify the image, and this cannot be done with those basic introductory microscopes. So I'm going to switch again over to keep everything a little bit more interesting. And let me see, I don't know, pumpkin. Shall we have a look at the pumpkin? It's right now, it's fall, yeah, and the fall time is pumpkin time. So let's have a look at a few pumpkin cells. Yeah, I guess I have to go down a little bit with the magnification here. Again, these are, by the way, these are all commercially prepared microscope slides. Yeah, but I've got also a fresh water sample over there where we can look at some diatoms later on. But actually, just looking at this, this is not a really particularly interesting. Here maybe, I don't know, not particularly interesting. Okay, but again, always you have to refocus. Again, you see the cells. Yeah. So thank you for addressing my questions. Yeah, of course, welcome. Nice to catch you. Thanks for all of the content. Ordered a Swift SW380T, so I'm excited to get. Yes, the Swift SW380T is actually one of the microscopes that I recommend because it's fairly low cost and actually it's also surprisingly good. Okay, it has a condenser, so you can do all of the things here. I made a review of the Swift 380T. The T stands for trinocular, so that means you can attach a camera on top, yeah, which is also quite convenient. I also collect fossils. I would buy a stereo microscope someday. I have one, and even though it's a big investment, it will pay off. Yes, so that's another important point here. If you want to collect fossils, or if you are interested in observing things that essentially are opaque, that means which do not allow light to go through, then you need a microscope where you have light coming from the top. Okay, up, yeah, and yeah, and sometimes what you can do is, I'm just going to use this here as an example. If you have a regular compound microscope, and if you go with a low power and if you put an object in here, you can of course shine some light yeah, down from the top, and this way you don't have the full yeah, all of the full nice image of a stereo microscope, but yeah, it's of course a possibility that you might want to try out. Yeah, okay. With me, I would like to buy one, but it will not. Yeah. Can the camera be hooked up to the TV instead of a computer? Ah, that's an interesting one. Can you connect the camera to a television? This specific camera cannot be connected to a television. If you want to have cameras that can be connected to televisions or directly to a monitor, then you need a camera that has an HDMI out. So the camera then needs its own power supply. And then if it has an HDMI out, then you can connect it directly to a computer monitor or a television. And this, of course, is quite nice and convenient because, yeah, the television can be switched on immediately. You don't have to wait for the computer to start. And as a matter of fact, this is something that I'm doing with my microscope here on the side, which you cannot see now. I've got a camera on top which directly goes into the monitor, so I can actually do on-screen microscopy as well without the need to turn on the computer. Okay. Saluton el Nederlando. Yes. Saluton. Nowadays, TVs probably yes. Where on earth I have to see a microscope kind of thing? I don't know how to describe it. On Amazon, a friend of mine uses it. Sometimes check it's okay. Yeah. Can I see a microbe cells with this microscope? Of course. Yeah. Can you see cells? Basically, what you see over here, you know what? I've got an arrow over here, so why not use the arrow? Okay. You see all of these things that you see here. These are the cell walls. Okay. Yeah, that's also a cell here. Yeah, that's a cell. So can you see cells? Yeah, of course. Yeah. The point is that those microscopes, those introductory microscopes, what they have is the following. They have a 4 times, 10 times, and 40 times objective, multiplied by 10 times eyepiece, and you get 40, 100, and 400 times magnification. Now, some of those microscopes are sold with a magnification of up to 1,000 times, and the reason is because they included 25 times eyepiece. Yeah? Essentially, the magnification is definitely large enough. Yeah. So, okay. Okay, sitting, enjoying. So I'm just skimming over all of those comments here. Yeah, keep on posting. It's all great, but I'll simply pick out those comments where there are questions in here. Okay. Yeah. a flashlight for solids, yes, a flashlight from the top to look at solid objects. Same thing goes for tablets. You will need a special wiring and relays without HDMI. Yes, there is indeed the following thing that what you can do is the following. As a matter of fact, I wanted to do this for this live stream, but the problem is that my mobile phone was too old. You can install apps that allow you to use the mobile phone directly as a webcam. Okay, then of course you need a computer again, and then you have a mobile phone adapter. Okay, and then I already connected an eyepiece in here so that I basically just have to set it up, and then all you put it in, and then you can use a mobile phone also as a webcam, and of course you can record videos directly. As a matter of fact, the quality is also quite surprisingly good. Yeah. I've collected very small shark's teeth, less than a millimeter in size. I own some, shark teeth fossils can all be observed best probably with a stereo microscope. Yeah, of course. It's cool. I use it on the moment to get a better view of my bat jaw. Okay. Good evening from the UK. Nice to see you. Hello. It's worth mentioning 160 versus 170 versus infinity objectives. I've been asked a few times about which type is the first-time buyers who wish to upgrade. Okay, that is a huge topic and specifically does not relate directly only to those microscopes over here, but I'm going to mention this anyway because that's a very central question. Okay. So, first of all, those microscope objectives that you have over here are not standard objectives. Okay, you see over here that the objectives are significantly smaller, and therefore, these microscopes are not upgradable. I do not think that you're able to even buy those objectives separately. It's probably also not worth it because the microscopes are so cheap. Now, there are basically three types of, so that's basically one standard or one category are those objectives in those introductory microscopes. However, even the introductory microscopes have different objectives. So this one, look, these are pretty small. Compare them now, I'm going to lift up this here now, to those objectives here. You see the microscope is nearly the same size, yeah? Or also this one over here, yeah, nearly the same size, but the objectives actually, they differ in size. Yeah? What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to take one of them out. Here, okay, see it got a little bit out of focus again. I'm going to take one of them out, okay, and you see that over here the threading here is quite small. Okay, so those introductory microscopes have their own standard. However, now I'm going to also take out the objective from the Swift microscope where you're basically seeing now this this image here, and I just realized something. That's why the image was a little bit dark. I forgot to included here a small polarization filter, a polarizing filter, which I'm just going to remove. It's just going to take away a lot of brightness. Just going to remove this because I did some experimentation. I converted this microscope into a polarizing microscope, and that's why I included a little polarizing filter here. It's not needed. And look at this. Yeah, do you see the difference? I don't know if you're able to see the difference in size quite well. Okay. Yeah, this one here, yeah, is much smaller than this one over here. Yeah, so those microscope objectives are not interchangeable. However, I'm going to put the other one back. Let's look at the writing that you have on this one over here because that's an interesting one. Yeah, if you look here carefully, I don't know if you're able to see it. It will say actually 160 written on here. Okay, I don't know. Yeah, it says 160, and the 160 means that this objective will create the image 160 millimeters into the microscope where it's then picked up by the eyepiece. Yeah? So this is what 160 means. However, those are so-called short barrel objectives. So this means they are also, even though the threading and everything is like a 160 millimeter standard microscope, the length is shorter. Okay, so they're still not quite full-sized, even though they're 160. And it basically, in general terms, is if you have a 160 millimeter DIN microscope, then you can exchange it with other 160 millimeter objectives. Infinity objectives are company dependent, and these are for expensive, quite expensive microscopes. Olympus, Zeiss, Nikon, the big brands All of them, they have infinity objectives, and these are then going towards research and yeah, and more professional use. I'm just looking for something else. What else do you want to look at here? Yeah, the wing of a, I don't know, maybe the leg of a spider here. I don't know. Yeah, that's a spider. Okay, that's not the leg. Here, that's the leg of a spider. Let's have a look at this here. If I'm able to find it, maybe go down a little bit with the magnification here. Yeah, that's the leg of a spider. You know what? I'm gonna later on. I'm going to, after I've answered the questions, I'm going to show you some of those specimens in direct comparison with my other microscope. Yeah. Yeah. So where am I? So that's the 160 versus 170. Yeah, versus infinity. So infinity are company specific. Yeah. And you cannot exchange, you cannot put 160mm objectives on infinity microscopes and vice versa, even if they should fit physically. Optically, they don't fit. Yeah? Might it be able to run a microscope cam through an Xbox or PlayStation? We'll have to try it. I don't know. I guess this depends if they have a USB, if they're able to, yeah, I mean, but Xbox and PlayStations are, I think, standard computers. Yeah? How does the extra eyepiece work when they are 10 times and 20 times, but they both are the same size? Are the lenses arranged in other ways? How does the extra eyepieces work when they are 10 times and 20 times, but they are both the same size? Are the lenses arranged? Okay, I get it, okay? Because what I said is the following. I don't have a 25 times eyepiece with me now. I've got a 15 times over here. Okay, but I'm just going to use the 15 times as an example. Basically, what you have is those microscopes. When they come always with a 10 times eyepiece, and then they also include a 25 times eyepiece. And the 25 times eyepiece, I think is not necessary. They add it so that they simply can increase the magnification, so that people are going to buy the microscope more. But what I have here is a 10 times eyepiece. Okay, and this one here is a 15 times eyepiece from another microscope. Yeah. Yeah. And you can see that they have the same size. Yeah, here. So that means you can simply exchange them. Yeah, and you put in the other microscope eyepiece, and then you just multiply it with whatever magnification you have here. Yeah, and that's all. Yeah, but the artificially increasing the magnification by adding stronger eyepieces is not going to improve the image quality. It's just going to become larger and more blurry. Yeah? So that's the thing. I'm also quite young and just discovered microscopy, and I really enjoy your videos. Well, thank you. Okay. Microscopy is one of those fascinating hobbies. Yeah, and it doesn't take a lot of money to get started. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to prepare a slide over here, a water sample. Not a lot of movement, but some diatoms. Okay. So let's have a look at this here. Okay. So this is now a fresh water sample. That I've got here, and looks kind of messy. So I'm looking now through the whole thing with a 4 times objective. You can see over here on the side, this here, let me refocus again, some decaying plant material. The little boxes that you see are basically cells. You see that it's already become transparent because of the decomposition. I'm going to go up with the magnification now. Okay, I have to refocus, of course. Okay, so that's a 10 times, and all of those green things that you see here, these are diatoms. They are algae. Okay, and then I'm going to show you how this looks like under my other microscope. Look, this blue thing here on the side, that's dust and dirt. In many water samples, you are able to see these days a lot of these dust fibers, microplastics in many cases. And you see, that's also one of the disadvantages a little bit of those low-cost microscopes, that they do not have a mechanical stage, and therefore moving the slide is a little bit jerky and a little bit not quite as smooth. Yeah? A lot of decomposing material here and lots of diatoms. Yeah? Unfortunately, I was not able to see any interesting ciliates or anything in this sample here, but diatoms are a good measure to actually check the quality of a microscope. Because if you're able to see the details of the diatom shells, then this means that the microscope is able to resolve quite well. So let's go up to 40 times. And I have to go up with the brightness, of course. And here, this is now 40 times. And there is something quite nice here. You are able to see some of the dots here that are kind of moving a little bit in the background. Many of them could be actually bacteria. I've actually also seen some spiral-shaped bacteria in this sample over here. And what you see is that this is, of course, a diatom which is alive. It's green, so it's the green chloroplast in there. And this is an empty diatom shell. And the diatom shell has a pattern. Yeah? And sometimes by looking, if you're able to see the pattern, then this is some kind of a measurement of how well the microscope is able to resolve any details. Yeah? So there are more comments and questions. Okay. How does the extra IP, oh, I talked about this. I'm also quite young. Okay. Why pink background? That's a good one. Yes, thank you for asking. The background is pink and I've been struggling with that. The reason is because the white balance is not properly adjusted. I can change the white balance in the settings, but I tried to do that, but I was not able to do it very precisely. I don't know if I'm able to do this. You might lose the image a little bit. Configure video, and when I go over here, I can, as a matter of fact, go down a little bit with the color. Just a second, I have to activate it a little bit. Yeah, and see, then that's basically, I turned down the red component and now everything looks a little bit bluish. Yeah. So this is a white balance problem. Yeah. So just wanted to show you that this can be adjusted. Normally, because it's an LED microscope, normally it should not be that pink. Yeah. How do you prepare a slide with diatoms? That's a huge question. If you want to prepare a slide with diatoms, then it depends a little bit on if you just want to prepare diatom shells like these here, or if you want to prepare diatoms containing the chloroplast. Diatom shell, if you have live diatoms and if you want to just prepare shells, then that is a procedure that requires you to boil the diatoms in hydrogen peroxide to remove all of the organic substances so that you only have the shells left over. And then you can mount those shells in a mounting medium. And if you want to mount the diatoms with the green chloroplast, then you probably have to use a mounting medium like glycerin jelly, because otherwise any organic solvents are going to dissolve the green chlorophyll. Yeah? It's interesting, actually, the slightly bluish background now, you can actually see the bacteria better that are floating around in the background. Yeah? Are you able to see blood with that cheap microscope? Yes, of course. I've not tried it yet, but of course, there's no reason why you shouldn't, because if we're able to see bacteria even, then of course you're able to see red blood cells. Yeah? There is no movement. Well, there is a little bit of movement. If you look at the bacteria moving in the background, this could be due to Brownian motion, and some of them might actually move as well. Yeah, let me look around. I think maybe the sample was a little too old, and therefore I did not see. Okay, some of you want to see some movement. I've got a jar with worms, nematode worms over there. I'm going to show them to you. Okay, so that is a little bit more excitement. I saw smoke in the right lighting and it was just microscopic particles. So cool smoke is kind of like dust. Yes, that's correct. Smoke particles are actually little particles. Yeah. Diatoms make up chalk. Well, the chalk is actually calcium carbonate or calcium sulfate. Diatoms are actually made of silica, which is more like glass. Are you able to put the same slide with the diatoms under the Olympus? Let's do that. Okay, I think that's a good thing. So let's remember how this looks like. This is now the 10 times, that's the 40 times objective. The magnification will probably not be the same because of the different field, okay, of view. Let's turn on this here. I'm going to switch over to the this one over here. Okay, so there is no slide in here yet. So let's put the diatom slide over here into the other one. This is now the 10 times objective. Okay, and this is how it looks like. I have to also adjust a little bit the other filters. Okay, I can adjust everything here. So, okay, we don't see a lot yet. Let's go up 20 times to adjust this here as well. Okay, maybe a little bit more brightness. Okay, so 40 times. Okay, more brightness. You see, I mean, it's comparable. It's comparable. okay, and 60 times, okay. And if you actually look carefully into, the bacteria and all these things are actually much more visible. I do have DIC, of course, so I can still play around with the contrast a little bit more, like this. Yeah. And now also the bacteria are much more visible. I'm not gonna, I could go up more with oil immersion. I'm not gonna do that now. Yeah. But this is basically what we're able to see here. No, I have to go up here with the filter also one more step up. I bumped it. Yeah. And this is basically now the same slide using now the Olympus microscope. And yeah, look, I'm going to show you something. I was now moving the wrong thing. Look at this here. That's a bacteria moving over here. See that? Okay, I hope that you're also able to see it over YouTube. So, another thing that I want to show you is I'm going to switch over now to phase contrast. Yeah, that's also something that only the slightly more advanced microscopes are able to do. I have to go over, I have to put in my phase contrast objective. I have to switch over to on the condenser. Yeah, and I have to open this here, and this is how it looks in phase contrast. Okay, so that's phase contrast is there to make objects that are transparent, like bacteria, better visible. Yeah? So all of those things that you see here in the background are bacteria. Yeah? And the diatoms now, they appear also different, so that's a very typical phase contrast phenomenon that they appear around with a bright, yeah, they're bright on the outside. Okay? And that is now the 40 times phase contrast. It's the only phase contrast objective that I have. What is this here? This is the shell of an amoeba. Okay, it's called a test. The test is the shell of an amoeba. Okay, so yeah, so let's go. Yeah, the diatoms are cool little greenhouses. Yes, they do a lot of. They make also a lot of oxygen. Okay. I fixed the contrast in my 380 and I love it even more. Yes, I love this Olympus. Yeah. Are there some amazing vintage slides with diatoms arranged in patterns? Imagine. Yes. Basically, there are some. I'm going to read this. There are some amazing vintage slides with diatoms. So what people have done back in the 19th century a lot is they collected diatoms. The shells of diatoms, and they arranged them nicely on a slide. How can you arrange diatom shells on a slide? They used eyelashes. They used their own eyelashes. They glued their own eyelashes on a little wooden stick, and they were kind of pushing the diatom shells around on their eyelashes. And the oil, the fat, the grease on the eyelashes actually allowed the people to pick up the diatoms, and they arranged them into beautiful patterns. Yeah. Yep, the bacteria is very visible and nice. Yes, because the bacteria are quite nicely visible because this is phase contrast. Yeah, I was actually a little bit. Yeah, I've seen some of them. There were some spiral-shaped bacteria as well. Not a lot now. Yeah. Oh, this could be a rotifer squeezed to death because of too little water. That's almost certainly a rotifer. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Will a super high intensity light source improve the image? Well, you can never have too little light, but I mean, of course, the camera exposure time is also able to compensate a lot. And if you have got too much light, well, then of course there is, it's going to be also too low in contrast. Yeah. Can you still remember the first microscope you used when you began? Yes, I do remember the first microscope. I got it when I was 6 years old, and it was a toy microscope. Okay, and I do remember this, but yeah, the thing is especially with young children, they need parental support because very soon all of the slides have been looked at, and then now what? Kids don't know how to make slides yet, and for this reason, yeah, you need, I think, if the kids are very young, there should be support by parents. Yeah. Yeah. Can you still, yeah, and yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to switch back again to the other one, okay, to this one over here, and let's have a look at something else. Okay, so back to the basic one. What do we have here? What is this here? Trichinella spiralis. That is that's one. That is the nice thing about those commercially prepared slides is that you have specimens in there that you normally would not see. Trichinella, that's actually a worm that you can get, or that people got long time ago when they've eaten pork meat which was not properly cooked. Okay, and then basically what happened is that those worms started to settle in muscle. So what you see over here are muscles, okay? These are all muscle fibers. And in the muscle fibers, I can already see two of those trichinella cysts. I'm going to show them to you. Yeah, so let's go up a little bit, yeah, here. So that's here, these are all muscles, okay, all of the red things here, and that here is a cyst, and in here you've got the worm. Okay, so that's one of those worms that started to settle down in the muscle, basically in the meat. Yeah? And if this happens, it's not so cool. And yeah, and this is basically yeah, here's another one, another worm. It's kind of difficult for me to position it. That's another cyst, okay. You can see over here the muscle fibers running across. Yeah. So yeah, just wanted to show this to you, and then we can again switch over to the other microscope. Yeah. And I can show you to compare this. Can you still remember? Okay, we had Swifts in high school way back in the early 2000s. I never thought it would be. Yeah, they were not cheap 20 years ago. The microscopes 20 years ago were quite expensive. Yeah. So as a matter of fact. A lot has happened. Is that pork? Let me just quickly see, where are my glasses? I forgot here my glasses. I'm going to read now what is written on the label here. Okay. Yeah, it only says Trichinella spiralis. It cut through muscle, but it does not say which type of muscle, if it's human or pork muscle. Yeah, so it doesn't say that, unfortunately. It would look the same anyway because they're all mammals. But I think you do get the idea that, as a matter of fact, those low-cost microscopes' image quality is pretty good already these days. Okay, so I'm going to go up to 400 times. Okay, I need to again increase the light intensity. Okay, and this is how it looks like. Okay, using this low-cost microscope. Now let's have a look how this actually looks like under the Olympus microscope. Okay, so I need to switch again over here. Yeah, that's the diatom slide. Just gonna add this one over here. And let's have a look here. And of course I have to focus. Yeah. And you do see that I think the contrast is indeed a bit better. Yeah. Again, one of those cysts here. Yeah. Of the parasite. And this is now the 10 times. I go up 20 times. Again, I have to go up with the light. I have to refocus again. Yeah. Let's go up yet further. Up with the light. Okay. And you do see more details, obviously. I mean, yeah, that's clear that a low-cost introductory microscope is not to be expected to have the same image quality. However, you might actually be surprised a little bit how good it is. But what I really wanted to show you is the following. And this is now the 60 times magnification. So if you look very carefully here, then you might see very tiny stripes. So the muscle fiber goes like this, but across you really have to zoom in a lot. You might see those tiny stripes, and these are so-called the light and dark bands of the muscle. Okay, and in order to see that, you already need a pretty good microscope. So you're not able to see that with a low-cost introductory microscope. Yeah? So this is kind of what I want to say. Is the high-end microscopes do allow you to resolve certain details that you otherwise would not see. Yeah, but still, nevertheless, it's quite surprising what those low-cost microscopes are able to do. Yeah? Okay, so a few more questions here. How do you get the stentors? I have a digital microscope app on my phone and for Christmas, and I really want a pocket microscope, and I saw one called the Microflip MP250. I don't know that one. No, I don't have any pocket microscopes. I do have some microscopes yeah, that basically can be plugged in directly into the computer, okay? USB microscopes. Yeah? This is still a common parasite where I live. There was an outbreak just earlier this year. Oh, thank you for the information. Oh, yeah, maybe you can tell us where this is. But essentially, that's one of the reasons why you should cook pork quite well, okay? Yeah, so that is, again, over here, a cross-section of the worm. It's kind of spiraling up, but you have a two-dimensional cross-section. Yeah? But I wanted to show this to you simply because of the resolution, okay, of the better microscopes, that you are actually able to see those so-called light and dark bands of the muscle. By the way, if you, in my other channel, I recently, just a few days ago, last week, I published a video on a flea. Why fleas are able to jump so far, and I'm also going to talk about those light and dark bands where I'm actually magnifying them even more. Yeah. So okay, so let's go through here a little bit. Yeah, how do you get the stentors? Stentors are water microorganisms. You gotta collect water samples, and then you have to be lucky that you find them. They like to attach themselves to a surface, so I suggest that you collect some plant material that is in the water. Yeah. Okay, have you ever taken one of your microscopes outside during winter to photograph snowflakes? Okay, I'll be honest with you. I've tried to, it was snowing last week where I'm living, and I tried to catch snowflakes, and I intend to do that. What you do is the following. You do not catch the snowflakes and put them directly under the microscope, but what you do is you take a slide and spread a thin layer of clear nail polish, ice cold nail polish, which you put into the freezer, and a thin layer of ice cold nail polish on a microscope slide, and you allow the snowflakes to settle on the nail polish. And then you allow it to dry in a very cold environment, and then this will leave the impression of the snowflake in the nail polish. So you can make permanent slides of snowflakes. Okay, easy to do, but it's got to be pretty cold, because otherwise the snowflakes are going to melt on the nail polish. So it is possible to make snowflakes. In my other channel, I actually last year, 2 years ago, I did publish a video where I show you how you can make those impressions of snowflakes. Yeah, so and you can see them, of course, also with the low-cost microscopes. Yeah. What brand of prepared slides are these? I still have boxes of Milben slides from the early 1980s and my cheap little red Tasco microscopes, but no longer works. Okay, those, just a second, where is this here? Do I have the, yes, here we go. Okay, those slides that I have over here are slides from a German company. And the German company is called Lieder, and they have a huge collection of slides. You can download the catalog from them. I don't know, maybe I want to write it down. And the address they have in English even, and you can order the slides also individually. I'm not affiliated with them, okay? So I'm not making any advertisements or anything. It's called Lieder.de, I think is the web address. Let me quickly check. I don't want to tell you anything wrong. Okay. Yes, that is correct. Okay, the web address is correct. You can choose the language there, and they have a huge PDF catalog of slides. And yeah, not cheap. Okay, I just want to say these are pretty good. They're pretty good quality, but they are not cheap, and you can buy them individually. Okay, as well. So they have a whole bunch of educational resources, and what I've read is that some of the slides are quite rare, and you have even some waiting time because they actually manufacture them, because they produce them for educational purposes, medical training, and so on. Okay. Looking at it sounds peaceful. Yep. Trichinosis larvae can move through the body to muscle tissue and around organs. This can cause potentially dangerous, even fatal complications. Yes, yep, exactly. And this is actually one of those slides that yeah, is used for, I guess, for medical training as well. Yeah. I don't own prepared slides, but I imagine it's very controversial. I would want slides that were prepared well, and there are many people selling slides. Okay, yeah. Some slides are not prepared well, but they might still be worth it. Okay, so there's some low-cost slides that slide boxes that I bought yeah, over Amazon sometimes. Yeah, some were okay, but some individual slides were not so good, and you could barely see something, or they were very dirty. That's another problem. But it might still be worth it because then you have some specimens that you normally would not have. Yeah? I thought I could also see the bands. It could be maybe, yeah. The dark and light bands, maybe you are able to see them also on cheap microscopes, but maybe it's not quite well possible with the camera connected. So there might be a loss of resolution. Yeah, so by looking through a microscope yourself, you always have you see more details than actually have over a camera. Okay. Okay. So that's cool. Awesome. Thanks. Thank you. The mill were cheer. I loved. Yep. So what am I going to do now? Maybe I'm just, how long am I already talking? Almost an hour already. So I'm slowly going to think about finishing off. But this is actually one of also my favorite slides. It's also the cross section of a tree, and Aristolochia it's called. And what I like about those cross sections is of plants that they look so beautiful. Okay, that's a little bit too bright. Okay, here we go. Okay. Down with the intensity, yeah, and this is one of my favorite ones here. You can see, yeah, see all of the individual cells, yeah, and this is how it looks like, yeah. And again, this is yeah, we go up a little bit, and here, yeah, this is now using the 10 times objective, a little bit brighter now. And usually with those low-cost microscopes, the high magnification 40 times objective produces the lowest quality. And I think one of the reasons is indeed because of the lack of a decent condenser. Yeah. So there is no way for me to control depth of field and contrast using those low-cost microscopes. But, I know I repeat myself, I think for the price they are already pretty good. Okay. I just bought Amscope 100 prepared slide set. It's on sale right now. It's nice. We're good. Thank you. Love your videos. Yes. Could you also put the Olympus link also in the Olympus link, and has that also a cam adapter on the 380T with some cheap Chinese cam, and pics are relatively good in comparison. Could you put also in that Olympus link? Well, if you visit olympus.com, then you simply have to go to the biosciences page, and then you can see all of the microscopes that they have. Yeah? The Olympus, yeah, looks of course more clear and better. Of course, has to, because after all, this is a pretty significantly more advanced microscope. And I'm going to now put in now the thing here, slide, the cross section that you just saw here, and so a little too much, I guess. No, I got wrong slide. here, this is the one. It's the same one as before. And so you have to open this a little bit here. I have to go down with the light intensity, and you can see that over here. I have to do this here. Yeah, you can see that of course there is with the Olympus microscope and with the condenser present, where you can see adjust everything here better. I can shift the prism around where I can change everything here. So obviously it will look a little bit different, but still, yeah, you can see that there is quite a bit of detail to be seen here. Yeah. So let's go on here. I was pretty upset with the 5 megapixel cam on the Swift, and this is a great cam. Eyesight is just as much better than cam. Honestly, vision is, I would say, pretty much in all cases better than over a camera. And this is the reason why people still use a direct observation, because a camera, every time, I guess these are some physical laws, every time when you try to convert something, light into a digital signal, there's a sampling error. And also the reason why it does not look quite as good is because of the so-called dynamic range. The human eye has an incredibly high dynamic range. This means the dark areas look darker and the bright areas look brighter, and cameras do not have that. And for this reason, pictures taken through a camera will never have the same depth, color depth, clarity and contrast as when looking at it directly. This is simply a basic observation, not necessarily the camera to be blamed alone. It's simply in the nature of things. Yeah. Can you see the form of the sample under with the naked eye? Can you see the form of the sample? Yeah. The question is how does it look like directly? I'm just going to hold this up here. I don't know if you're able to see this. Here, I'm going to hold it on my forehead. This round thing that you see here, that's the cross-section of the stem of the tree. Okay? Yeah? So it's a very thin cross-section. Yeah? And if you want to look at it under the microscope, let's use again the Swift, the one with the 5 megapixel camera, and then to give you a little orientation of about the size. Where is this? I have to go down a little bit with the light intensity. Okay. Here we go. That's a little bit brighter here. Focus. Yeah. So that's one side. That's the center, and that's the other side. This is now you're looking at it with a 4 times objective. Okay, with a low power objective. Yeah. So this is basically here the center, and then that's the other side. Yeah, and in real life it's about, I don't know, 6-7 millimeters across, maybe quarter of an inch. Yeah. So yeah, it kind of puts everything into relation here. Yeah. So I'm going to go down again the comments here. Can you see naked eye with magnification for sure, better color. I mean, okay, cams really don't do the true image justice. Yes, that is correct. Yeah. Sad to think no matter what photo, the sun will always be better in real life. Yeah, that is also true. Yeah. One could also say a little bit, why visit another country? Why go on holidays on a trip if you can see all of the things also online? Google Street View. Of course, you can visit the world also online, but of course, seeing something directly, it's kind of connects you much better to the world. Yeah. Yes, with the SW380, I almost gave up oil immersion because I couldn't get the picture as sharp as with the 40 times. It is the following. This is a psychological thing. I need to explain this a little bit. Microscopes that have 100 times oil immersion objective, when you do that, subjectively it will appear more blurry with a higher magnification. However, factually we will see more details. Okay, so this is a little bit the thing commenting here. NPM, that's the user commented this here, is that oil immersion was disappointing because it looked more blurry than with the 40 times, and that is correct. Because the magnification increases faster than the numerical aperture, than the resolution. However, still, if you look very carefully, you're going to see more details. So you see, it's a little bit of the subjective impression of what is clarity. Yeah? I put the video objective where the oil one went. Okay. Tossed the plant objective in the first thing tossed. Okay. When you look samples with water, there is the problem that the water evaporates. Do you have any suggestions for limit or even eliminate the problem? Okay, yes. This is almost the topic of another video. So the problem is if you have a sample, I don't even know where to put mine here now. Here. If you have a sample like I basically used now with water on here, then the water is going to evaporate. You can minimize this, of course, by using a large cover glass like I have done now. So they're the small ones, and this is a huge one. I don't know if you're able to see. You know what? I'm going to switch over to the desk view, and yeah, let's see. Yeah, maybe you see it better here. You see, it's a huge cover glass, and this minimizes evaporation. The second thing that you can do is if you want to store the slide overnight or for several days, you put it into a plastic container with water in it, and you make sure that the slide does not touch the water. So you make a moist chamber. That's the second possibility. And the third possibility is you use something called an inverted a hanging drop method, which is where you use a concave slide and where you have a hanging drop, and then everything is the cover glass is sealed off so the water cannot evaporate. Or what I always do is I always add water on the side here to replenish the water when it evaporates. Yeah? So there are several things here, but I think I might do a separate video on this because there are to explain this. What about having some form where your watches have profiles and can post your pics, and these will be discussed with you. Concerning the form, there is already a form that I have. If you visit my web page, microbehunter.com, there is a web form, or you can directly visit it with microscopy-forum.com, and you're going to be directly connected to a forum where people can share pictures. Discussion is possible. People also post some thing into Reddit. I mean, maybe that's all. I've got a Microbehunter Reddit page as well. Okay. Sorry, I'm just joining now. What were you looking at there? For all those people who were just joined right now, I put, today I want to dedicate I dedicated the video to those cheap, low-cost entry-level microscopes and what you're able to see with those. So what you see right now is an image of the cross-section of a stem using a cheap, low-cost entry-level microscope. Yeah? Why am I doing that is because this way I also want to motivate people to pick up microscopy, because some people think that they have to spend a lot of money to get started, and I just wanted to convince you that this is not necessary. And sometimes it's better maybe not to spend too much at the beginning and simply start off with some basic microscopes, and then after some months or years or maybe never you can always upgrade. Yeah. Have you heard of the Euromax BioBlue microscopes? You bet I've heard about them. We've got them in school. And as a matter of fact, in this very channel, I unpacked them and made a review of them. Yeah, are they any good? Well, you decide. I think yes, they are good, and we actually have them. The Euromax BioBlue microscopes has the reason why we chose those because they had an interesting feature that not many other microscopes have. The BioBlue from Euromax have monocular tubes, and that's what we wanted in education, because this way they're more easily portable, they're not quite as expensive, and you can carry them around, especially with kids. They're not quite as heavy, the microscopes, as if you have to look through both of them. Yeah, so they're smaller instead of having binocular, and they have a condenser as well. So kind of the Euromax BioBlue microscope versions that we have is they kind of combined features of the low-cost entry-level microscopes that have only one eyepiece with the slightly more expensive ones that have a condenser. Yeah? So Euromax BioBlue microscope, please check this channel, go back sometime, and there are some reviews where compared to Euromax BioBlue with I think a Multic microscope. Yeah, I did an unpacking. Okay, so yeah. Every weekly podcast, your viewers are getting bigger and bigger. Oh, that's nice. And if you're getting bigger and bigger at the same time, I would like to advertise something here. I do have a shop, an online microscope shop. I'm not selling the products myself, but it's an affiliate shop. Where I collected some microscopy products on Amazon. So if you visit this shop, then you can see what things are sold, right? Again, this is then goes directly over Amazon. I'm just an affiliate and I earn a little commission this way. That's one thing that I want to say. And the second thing is I do want to request that you please do subscribe to this channel and also to my other channel, where there's the Microbehunter channel, and this is called Microbehunter Microscopy. I have two channels. I'd like to invite you please to subscribe to those, because if there are more members in subscribing and if the community is larger, then this is also good for microscopies in general. Yeah, and people see that lots of people are interested. Yeah. I'm just turning in for the first time. This is incredible for me. Well, I hope that you like it. I wanted to do an online microscopy video live stream every week, but I of course also add some other regular videos. Actually, I do also plan to show you how a centrifuge works. I wanted to do that today, but then decided to talk a little bit about the low-cost microscopes. Yeah? Okay, the higher the power, the shorter the depth of field. Yes, that's also correct. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. There is a forum. Okay. Yeah. Nice web page. Looks great. Web page is nice. It is a little bit slow. It needs some cleaning up because some of the articles are already outdated. Yeah. I've just ordered my first microscope from Microscope and haven't used one since I was in university. I'm learning everything from other beginners. Do you have a guide or book that you recommend? Yeah. The book, the really good microscopy books that I've got, most of them are in German, and some of them are not in print anymore. However, I would say that there is lots of information available online as well. So if you, it might not be quite nicely and compact, do check my webpage. I did include a lot of articles also on my webpage yeah. And as a matter of fact, I do have another plan. I do want to make a series of microscopy instructional videos as well. Yeah. So, and yeah, I did start to work on a book already, but this is also quite time consuming. Good mycology literature is so hard to get your hands on, small batch prints. The thing with not only mycology, but generally with microorganisms and so on is that there is the more detailed you become and more advanced you become, the more rapid there are changes are happening. Yeah? And so this means that as soon as some books are in print, maybe sometimes they're already a little bit outdated. Yeah? I think I had 3 channels on YouTube once. I had several channels. I'll be honest. Okay, I have this is the Microbehunter microscopy channel, which is my second largest channel. The main channel is called Microbehunter, just as it is. I've got another channel called where I did do something about stereo microscopy, okay, where you have to guess what the object is. I have also all things microbes, where I do some theoretical talk, but I've not always maintained all of the channels. Okay, yeah. So I have to watch this with a pen and note it the next time. Thank you. Will check your web page. Okay, yeah, yeah. So that is essentially basically, if you're interested in my other channels, if you visit the webpage, I got links there as well. The other channel that I have is called Microscopic Mysteries, which is, I've just a few videos there where I'm making, I show you some things under the microscope and you have to guess what it is. Yeah. But I would say the 2 main channels are this one here and the Microbehunter main channel, which I also highly recommend if you're a beginner, because I show you how to put things under the microscope as well. Yeah. Can you recommend a book, website for identifying microorganisms? I have so many rotifers in my abandoned aquarium. Okay, so yes, I have to. I do have a book, and I already recommended this book before. It is in German, however, but it doesn't matter because it contains so many pictures. It's called Das Leben im Wassertropfen, Life in a Droplet of Water. And just a second, I will go and get it again. Okay, here I am. Okay, it's the old version. I think I've been showing this book now for the last couple of days, weeks. Unfortunately, you don't see it quite well because of the green screen. So I'm going to do this here again. Okay, so that is the book that I recommend. That's an old version, but if you look for those authors here, and even if it's in German, it doesn't matter because the pictures in there, they will tell you what the organism is, and then you can Google for it. Okay, so this is a book that I definitely recommend. I've so far pretty much found everything in my water sample I found also in here in this book. Okay, so this is definitely I would say a standard one, but the new version has a different color. It's not green anymore. Okay, yeah. Brock microbiology. Yes, I've got this as well. I studied Brock and Madigan microbiology, a standard book about microorganisms, but I think not an identification book as such. Okay, but more about cell biology. Yeah, yeah, it's indeed a great book. I highly recommend. I bought it recently. Okay, yeah. So I have the 11th edition of Brock. I think it's time to update. Yep. Okay, this is still an old edition. I actually might also get a new one. Yeah. Again, I'm a little bit worried about showing you the contents because of copyright issues. But if you go to on Amazon, there are a few pages in there, but they still in the Amazon preview they do not show you all of the drawings. There are a few drawings in there. And basically all of the drawings are of the same quality. So I think it's an excellent identification book. Okay, yeah, so, and don't worry if it's in German, you can use Google Translate. You take a picture of whatever you want to have translated, and then Google Translate will automatically translate this into whatever language you want, but I think that's not even necessary. I don't even read the text here. I just want to know the name of the organism, and then I Google it and get more information about it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Does the book have microfriends found in soil in it too? It does not really distinguish where it's found. Okay, so that's the important thing. It's got algae in there, ciliates, worms, lots of algae, of course, bacteria. Don't. At least in this version, I'm not. I don't like the bacteria section because you cannot do bacterial identification just by looking at bacteria. Yeah, the biodiversity is way too large. Rotifers, you bet, lots of them. Yeah, so highly recommended this book here. Okay, I'm trying to get rid of fish tank critters. I don't know. Maybe you have more fish that eat them. I don't know. Yeah, but then I heard that some hydra, for example, can be a problem in some aquariums and so on. Yeah. So, wow, I sidetracked again a little bit. Yeah, for those of you who basically joined in late, this was actually the video which I dedicated to those low-cost microscopes, and we can be happy that we're living now in a time where also cheaper microscopes are available. However, those microscopes do have a little bit the disadvantage that they do not have a condenser, as I mentioned. You only have one eyepiece, might be an issue, and of course the resolution cannot quite keep up with the better microscopes, obviously, but still, as you can see, for the price, pretty decent. Yeah. So I'm quite surprised with what is possible these days, and I think there are plenty of easy ways to start the hobby and also to buy these microscopes for educational use. Yeah. Again, I think the big, maybe as a final comment, and I've also made videos on this, is more of a different problem. Look, if you put a nice slide like this under the microscope and you look at it, okay, it looks beautiful and all the great and so on, but what do you actually see? And that's a little bit the problem, right? It's abstract. It's beautiful abstract art in some cases, but what do you actually see? It's difficult to make sense of the things that you see if you don't have any basic knowledge of biology, right? I mean, I can tell you, of course, that these are cells here that are transporting water. Yeah? You can see that the cell contents, the cell walls are visible, all these things. We can talk about that, yeah? But this requires a little bit of biological knowledge. You can, you talk about the different parts here, about the cambium, which is important for cell division, the xylem for transporting water, the phloem for transporting the nutrients down. Yeah, I can talk about the different layers of the cells. But all these things, they need some kind of basic biological background. And this is essentially, I think, that's still missing a little bit. Is some literature, not only for identification of microorganisms, but some basic literature that people who are new, children even, who are new to the hobby, that they can make sense of the things that they're actually seeing. And that's something that we still need to work on, I think. Yeah. So let's go through the last comments here. Hopefully I get a good micro. I had a hydra outbreak last year. Yeah. I put some hydra under the microscope. Yeah, it's from an aquarium. Yeah. I found the session very interesting. Do you do these regularly? Yes, I want to do it. I'm doing a session once every week, every Saturday at the same time for about an hour 15 minutes. Yeah, and so right now I'm doing them regularly, but my videos that I do are not quite regular, at least in this channel. Yeah? So the standard videos, yeah? But the live streams I've done quite regularly right now. Okay, okay. I don't even use meds, run controlling light and water temperature. Okay, so some discussion about aquariums here. But what I'm going to do, 1 hour 20 minutes is quite exhausting for me as well, talking 1 hour 20 minutes. And for this reason, I think I'm going to call it quits for today. If you joined in late, and if you want to see the start of this video, then this video will of course be online. Okay, I would like to again invite you to please subscribe to this channel and also the other channel, my main channel, because having a lot of subscribers after all is important, because it shows the people, the community, that microscopy is actually appreciated by a lot of people. And for this reason, yeah, I would like to invite you to do that. If you want to buy microscopes, please have a look at the affiliate shop. I put the links into the description, and the Amazon shop. If you think that some of the products are not so good, and then simply write me and then I'll take them out. Or if you have some recommendations of products that you should put into the Amazon affiliate shop, then you can of course also inform me on that. I'm pretty open about that. Yeah. Very quickly, the last comments. Thank you, Oliver. Do you currently have an aquarium? Not currently, but I used to have one. But I have access to an aquarium because in the school where I work there is an aquarium, so I'm actually able to take samples from there. Many years ago I used to have an aquarium. Yeah. Well, actually, as a matter of fact, if you call this an aquarium, just a second. I don't know if you consider this to the problem is the green screen. It looks transparent. It's a gigantic jar, no fish, but a lot of algae. Yeah. So this is my mini aquarium that I use to collect, that I established some time ago, and then I take samples to put under the microscope. Okay, okay. I think it's time to go now. Okay, fish some years died. Yeah. Okay, bacteria, of course. Yeah. The important thing is that you have to keep the oxygen concentration high, so that otherwise, if bacteria start to explode, then they will push down the oxygen concentration, and then the fish might also die. Well, I think now it's really enough for today, because I'm thirsty already and of all of the talking. I hope that you liked this episode again. Wish you all the best. Hopefully see you again next week. I'm thinking already of a topic that I could talk about next week. Yeah, all the best. Happy microbe hunting as always, and see you around next time. Bye bye. All the best.